Welcome back, everybody. I hope you've had a really good lunch. As you know, I had mine much earlier, but I still enjoyed the break. And I hope you've had a chance to network as well, because that is one of the main benefits of this forum. Right, we're on with the afternoon agenda now, and a couple of really good speeches coming up. This next one, I don't want to cause any pressure on the speaker, but it was voted, or she was voted, the best presentation last year at the live event. So there's some expectation there. And it is about how we can become rock stars, digital rock stars, which I would really like to become. So who is Sarah? Well, she's head of global digital marketing at UBS Asset Management. Started her professional career in FMCG before changing from IT into asset management. Through her diverse job positions, she could gain a good overview about different industries, whereas in the end, she specialized herself in the niche of asset management. After 3 years working for Aberdeen Asset Management as a country marketing manager, she joined UBS in 2016 as digital marketing specialist, before taking over that team, being able to fill this role as head of global digital marketing. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this amazing introduction. Now the pressure is on, and I hope I can make the session as interactive as possible. So please interrupt and ask questions if you have any in between. Today, I want to speak about our social ambassador program. We call it How to Become a Digital Rockstar, because this name just is special. Like, everyone wants to feel special, and this is like how we are selling it internally to our especially CRMs, which is the target audience for this program, and to actually give them digital tool sets on their hand and master the social media space. This program was actually put into life around 1.5 years ago. And what I want to actually talk about today and guide you through is I want to share with you our learnings we made during the journey. I will also want to highlight some pitfalls so that you don't do the same mistakes as we did, so that you can learn from us. We will also show you some frameworks, how we measure success, and where we stand in the program and what are the next steps. So all in all, social media is an important channel in the digital marketing mix. And it gets more and more important, especially nowadays with the COVID situation. We can't do any live events anymore, and we can't cut through the noise with email marketing. So social media is still an untapped opportunity, especially in the social sharing, social selling space. And we started around 2.5 years ago, which is actually quite late, with our company page on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is the main channel, and I will show you some stats why that is the case for us in the B2B space, especially in the financial industries. And what we reached with our company page can't cope up with actually this program, and this program is only 1.5 years old. And a couple of facts you can see on the slide. It's just states that actually employee networks can extend companies' social reach over 50 times. And why is that the case? Because most of the time their networks are much more relevant, because they connect automatically with clients and prospects, industry partners, journalists, and it's the right target audience. Also, when employees are posting something, they get a higher click-through rate. And I have a good example, because we had a third-party media interview with one of our CRMs lately, and he asked us, because it was a great success where they were winning an award, to also post it over our company page. And at the end, I was comparing the stats of our company efforts compared to actually his own efforts. And the engagement rates were quite similar, because our company page has now around 75,000 followers and his network was around 2,000. But when I looked at the website stats, which is also a really interesting KPI, actually 90% of the quality traffic to that landing page was coming from his post and not from the company post. So that is like a fact which I really want to state, and you should really keep in mind, because it always depends which KPIs you are looking for. Is it the engagement rate, or is it really that you want to see the quality traffic at the end and the conversions on the website? But more about KPIs I will tell you later in the presentation. You can see also LinkedIn gets a more and more deep subject matter channel. That's why also we focus mainly on LinkedIn, because with that stats we got from the survey was actually the trust level raised more and more also for social media channels. All in all, the financial industries are really highly regulated, and this fact also is true in social media, which made it not easy to start and kick off this project 1.5 years ago. We tried to implement this change a bank project, and when you need to think about change the bank projects, you need to think about people, processes, and technology, because you only can be successful if you consider these three aspects, as they work like gear wheels with each other. And in the slide, you see actually the people side. So you have different stakeholders with different needs, and to realize such a project, you need to convince all of them. So you need to have the content writers in the boat, because they are actually the fool. They are writing the content, and the content is king, which means without good content, the program can't be successful. But you, of course, before they write content for your social media channels, they need to be trained, because they need to understand what is allowed to speak about in social medias, what are the do's and don'ts. And of course, they need to understand what are the optimal formats, which topics resonate with the target audience. Then, of course, you need someone from the marketing side who is responsible for the overall project. So he needs to train the sales colleagues. He needs to actually select them. He needs, or she needs to actually measure the success of the program, because at the end, you always need senior management commitment, because without that, such a program won't be possible. Then one of the gatekeepers, and it's a really important one, is the compliance teams, because they are really aware of the evolving regulatory landscape, and they want to be sure that we are not violating or breaching anything while actually employing this program. So they want actually easy way to monitor activities, so that we are not running into any pitfalls, that we are not going viral with anything which shouldn't be on social media. So you really need to keep them informed and keep them in the loop, and technology can help with that. And then on the other side, the CRMs or the sales, which will be the digital rockstars, they need to get trained on them. And of course, they need to understand the benefits. You will have some of them who are quite keen to be first movers and understand that social media is the sales channel of the future. But some of them won't be as enthusiastic at the beginning, and you have to actually give them proof points, how they can reach their clients on social media with not much effort, how they can stay in the regulations, and how they can do actually prospecting and doing sales at the end. And of course, the sales heads, they are also one of the gatekeepers, because at the end, they will only give you people from their team to be part of your program if you drive sales productivity at the end, because they want to understand, is social media really a sales channel of the future, and how do we measure success? Because if that is not given, he won't be able to actually give you his team so that they develop new skills and give them free time to actually be part of that program. If we come actually to the process and technology part, you need to have a tool in place which helps you to be compliant. And for us, we decided to work together with Hearsay Social. And Hearsay Social helps us with different techniques like keyword alerts, post analysis and cross checks, and proactive approval processes to be staying in the given boundaries of our compliance teams. You can see everyone who wants to be part of our Digital Rockstar program, he needs to comply with certain requirements. So first of all, they need to sign terms of use so that their social media profile will be used for professional usage, and that we have to upgrade their profile for UBS brand. Then they get a trainings program, which we call Hearsay Social Spokesperson training, so that they know the do's and don'ts of social media, that they understand the UBS social media policy, and we give them also some examples so that they can actually see what is allowed, what is not allowed, so that when they are active on the tool itself, that they shouldn't have a lot of questions. And if they have, then they can reach out to the project manager or send something first to compliance before it gets actually posted on LinkedIn. And last but not least, really important is the adaptation of the LinkedIn profile to certain standards, because nowadays we don't hand out business cards anymore. Actually, everyone connects on LinkedIn instead. So this is the digital business card, and it needs to have a certain format. And we have a couple of checks which the profile needs to meet before someone can get onboarded to this digital Rockstar program. And if all these preconditions are met, then his profile gets connected with the Hearsay Social platform, so that we address all legal and compliance requirements. On this platform, you can find, or the Digital Rockstar can find, UBS content, but as well third-party content, and everything gets pre-approved through the content library. And on the content library, you can actually build different segments, which means depending on the language level of a person. For example, I'm only speaking English and German and a bit of French, so I would not see any Italian content on the platform. And for example, I belong to the hierarchy marketing, so I would only see suitable content for the hierarchy marketing. So you can build different hierarchies so that you can play only content which is relevant for that certain person. And then on the content library has even different ways how he can filter and find content he's interested in. He can sort after certain tags. So, for example, if I want to post something around China, I can tag the China tag, and then I can see everything which is available for China. And I can even filter after other things, like sort by engaging or sort by popular. If I'm, for example, interested what my peers on the program are doing, then I could see that with these two sorting possibilities. If I want to sort by engaging, I see actually which of the posts for China had the highest engagement rate in general. And if I filter after popular, I can see how many times a certain post was already published. It depends a bit on the content strategy the certain person has for himself. Like the content strategy can be that I want to leverage only content which was also successful with my peers, or I can also say, no, I only want to post content which no one picked up previously. And for the lazy ones, we have an option as well. So we have the possibility for dynamic campaigns. And if someone feels comfortable, he wants to be part, for example, for the digital transformation theme campaign, he subscribes to it, and everything which is created for this campaign by a content manager is automatically added to his content timeline. And then he can go into his calendar, can see actually what is actually posted. He can make changes in this in the overview, or actually can also delete if there are too many posts and he says, oh, my content strategy is only to post once a week. So everything is really possible. And actually the best feature I have to mention is you have a possibility which is called, when you schedule a post, that you use suggested times. And the idea is behind that when you post a couple of times over this platform, it's calculating when is the best time for your post so that it's successful. Because when you understand the LinkedIn algorithm, you need to have a lot of likes and comments within the first 2 hours. And if that's the case, you get higher impressions. And this is actually what the algorithm calculates for you. When is your target audience most active on LinkedIn? And this is the suggested time so that your post will be most successful. Then, of course, as our CRMs or sales are often on the road, of course, nowadays not that much as previously, but they can work on a desktop or with the app. Most of them actually prefer the app because for them it's easier. For example, if they are in a long conference call and they are bored, they think, while I'm there and listening, I can make a post and use the time efficiently. And these are different ways how they can actually then post. And everything what they do is actually monitored and archived under our policies, and I do a monthly reporting for them so that they can see their success rates. And the good thing is as well, we have a weekly newsletter, which is actually created with artificial intelligence. So depending on their posting activities, so they understand if in which kind of tags you're interested in, it gives you personal suggestions in the newsletter so that it highlights to you latest posts or latest articles which were posted in the library, which gives highest success rates for you. Why did we focus on LinkedIn? It's a platform of choice for us, and it's a future sales channel. And it has to do with a couple of facts. As we are focusing mainly on B2B sales, we are focusing on institutional investors, which are pension funds and insurance companies or financial advisors of other banks or family offices, or as well wealth management clients. And when we look at the total audience size on LinkedIn, it's around 12 million. And actually the COVID was a positive digital driver for that, because the activities on social media raised massively over time, and we could see that they do more inbox views, they did more shares, they had more time as well on the institutional investor side than and as on the financial advisor side. So it was really a sign for us, if we want to be active and want to actually have such a program in place, now it's the best time, or it's the year of the choice to do something like this. But when you create such a program, you have to think of different phases. You need to start with the professional business profiles, because one fact is as well, LinkedIn profiles rank very high on Google search, which means every sales wants to be findable. And I always explain them, especially when they don't have an about section, this is how you sell yourself. So please write some sentences, make some bullet points, put a lot of keywords in there for which you want to be findable, and that's the first thing what they actually do. Then look for a professional business attire profile picture. Then we always have a background picture so that we show a bit of professional flair. And then of course the profile needs to be clean and connected with the UBS email address and phone number, so that they can react really, really fast if someone responds, and bring business conversations over to a approved conversation channel. Then, of course, we want to make sure that everything looks clean, professional, because it's the digital business card. And we also want to highlight that they have digital competence, because this is something which is really needed nowadays. Then phase 2 is we want to build them up as thought leaders and creators of high engagement. So we actually provide them different content so they can choose what fits in their content strategy, and they should be regular content providers in the news feeds for the prospects and clients. And with that, have high organic reach with likes, shares, and comments. And we always try to actually teach them it's give and get something back, because we don't want that they only actually post and don't actually resonate and rethink what is the target audience doing. So we also want that they do social listening, and that they also give something back, so that they're also liking and commenting interesting posts of their target audience. And last but not least, that is actually where we want to go, and that's the goal of the journey. We want to go into prospecting and lead generation, and identify new business opportunities. And this is mainly done by social listening, that you understand where is which client in which phase, what are they interested in at the moment, so that you see the right timings for actually addressing them with the right content. And a really good tool to do that is the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And that is what we realized. We thought at the beginning we have to start one step after the other, because we can't actually give different tools to a social media beginner, because some other businesses have tried and they failed with that approach. You really have to build it up from scratch. You have to build up the knowledge level so that they can cope and understand with this change in their selling activities, because it really needs to be adapted. They should see actually their activities on LinkedIn as a separate thing. It should go all hand in hand, which means we actually look at the performance of different CRMs and we upgrade them from one phase to the other. So if someone is ready and we see he's master social sharing, then he gets upgraded to social selling and he would be ready to actually get on the LinkedIn Sales Navigator pilot. And we have special training programs according to the LinkedIn SSI. That is a really important KPI for us, so that we see how ready a person is. And according to that, we have different training programs in regards of how to create best performing content on LinkedIn, how do you monitor and read the stats right, how do we react on prospecting, and all of these kind of training programs. If we look at how we measure performance, and that is really important because senior management is asking for that. They want to see that it's not only a fun project, which it definitely is, but they also want to see that we are successful with it. And so we created this, we used actually this common sales funnel with awareness, engagement, and conversion. And the awareness factor is we measure the network growth. So we give them benchmarks, which I'm talking about later, and we give them a number of posts they should do per month. In the engagement bucket, we actually measure the engagement rate they have in total and engagement per post in average, and we look at the LinkedIn Social Selling Index. And last but not least, on the conversion area, we look at the quality website traffic, the bounce rate, on the average time spent on the website, and on the conversion rate, which is in our case, download of white papers, filling out contact forms, or actually subscribing to our newsletter services. And you see here how the program developed this year. So we started actually in May 2019 with 18 people. And now we are actually with 55 nowadays. The network size grew to 100K. So we are with 100K at the moment, which is the reach all digital rockstars would have together. The posts published, they went a bit down, which is not dramatic because the average we set is 4 posts per month, and currently we have around 5 to 6 posts per active workspace. The engagement is actually for us the main criteria, and this one I'm really happy about, that this number is raising from quarter to quarter, so that we have an upwards trend of around 18% from Q2 to Q3 this year. If we look at the engagement rates per post, there we have currently an average of 12.5, which is really above benchmark, because we said 10 would be nice to reach. And if we look into how our competitor programs are running, they often have an average of around 5. And why is our engagement per post so high? It's really an interesting fact that the originators of the posts is they're posting a lot of unique content. They are not just taking what is in the library, they are creating a lot of content themselves, or if they take content from the library, they give it a personal touch. And I think that is actually what matters, because you know your target audience best and you know whom you want to reach. And of course, the post needs to highlight why the post is interesting for them to engage with. And if you're just actually posting something which doesn't have any relevance, then of course your success rate will be not high.
There's a quick question from Daniel from Sonova. Very interesting question. Are UBS employees still allowed to have their own LinkedIn channel and post their own opinions about the finance industry, or do they have to go through your program if they want to post as a UBS employee?
That's a really good question. Happy that you asked that. So in general, UBS has a really strict social media policy. I'm personally not really happy with the social media policy, because it says that every UBS employee is not allowed to post something on social media in regards of UBS. So for example, I'm not a digital rockstar. I can post around financial opinions, but nothing which has a UBS relation, so that no one thinks that I'm speaking in the name of UBS. If I would, yes, that is the reason.
So you can post your own theory or article about your opinion on central banks, interest rates, and currency in the stock market, but if you use USB in a sentence, then it's a no-no.
Exactly, that's the case. And posts with UBS content can, from normal employees, they can only share it or like it if it has a certain hashtag. So UBS implemented a hashtag which is called Share UBS, and this hashtag shows employees that this content is safe to share, because we have to comply to especially US regulations, and there everything needs to go through Series 24, and to have all these approvals in place, it's you need to have global compliance and a Series 24 officer to approve on content, which is not that easy. That's why only limited content has this hashtag Share UBS, and then employees know they can like or share it, but they are not allowed to comment it. And digital rockstars, they are free actually to do whatever they want. Of course, they know that they don't post something really radical, but of course they can post whatever they want about UBS in a certain context without any limitations.
So, because Daniel mentions, I was thinking too, the profile will still say you are from UBS. So there is that. So you're posting a finance article. You don't mention UBS, but your job title is UBS. So it still could be taken by the audience as a representative of UBS having that opinion. But if that's still okay, as long as you don't specifically mention UBS in your post.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And a Series 24, is that like in the US with the Series 7, it's like a license for compliance or something like that?
Yes, exactly. Series 7 is the first test you have to do, and only if that you pass that successfully, then you can go for Series 24. That's exactly that.
We used to have the 7 years ago. It's different now. The rules are different, and some of the licenses are different now, and the education requirements change as years go by. But that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's especially a Series 24 approver. The challenge is that when you approve something and a company gets sued for it, then you actually have to pay for it, not the company. That's why it's actually a quite important role, and they need to be sure that they don't approve something which is in a gray zone, because it can be expensive for them. Yes, perfect. So then LinkedIn SSI is a really important metric. Hard to get because you can only get it on a personal level, or you have the LinkedIn Sales Navigator team license, then you can actually also monitor that KPI for a certain group. And actually our benchmark is 58. If you don't know your LinkedIn SSI, I can really recommend to test it. It's really interesting to see where you stand, because you can see also in this overview which kind of level your industry has and which kind of level actually your connections have, so you can see where you benchmark yourself. In regards of website KPIs, so website visits, really important metric also for us. It went down from Q2 to Q3. This is something I'm really trying still to push, that we are improving on that metric, because my digital rockstars realized that the content rule 411 is really important. So you normally should post 4 curated content posts, 1 post which is promotional content, and 1 post which is actually of a personal character. And often posts which have a personal character or actually are third-party mentionings with a high credibility often reaches higher engagement rates, but of course no website traffic which we can measure if it doesn't go to the ubs.com page. That's why the number goes down there. But what is really good is that the bounce rate is really low, and the average time per visit is actually within benchmark of 60 seconds. So the traffic which is coming to our website through that program is at least quality traffic, which is important, because at the end you don't want to have a lot of traffic with a high bounce rate. We set achievable benchmarks, and this is what I want to highlight to you. So we actually do monthly reportings on different levels. So we do reportings for senior management, we do reportings on a peer-to-peer analysis, but we also do reportings on an individual level, so that we are able to coach and motivate them. And I think that is actually really important, to have that mix, that you're not only focusing upwards to senior management to have their commitment, it's important, but also to show each digital rockstar how important they are and help them in their journey to master, to become extraordinary digital rockstar. And we have different benchmarks for awareness, for example. We look at the network growth, as previously mentioned, but depending on the size of your network, you have different growth targets. Because if your network is already really big, of course, you can't grow as much as someone who has a small network. The number of posts, we gave an amount of 4 per month, so 1 per week should be reachable. Some of them do less and still have a really high engagement, which is also fine because generally quality is always above quantity, but we also have a couple of them who post much more. Then the engagement benchmarks are the engagements per post. Of course, here the same. If you have less connections or followers, then of course the number is lower than when you have a bigger network and have more chances to reach higher engagement rates. And the LinkedIn SSI, as I previously mentioned, benchmark would be for us in our program is 58. A really interesting fact is actually the content itself. And often the best performing content which you see under popular and engaging is completely not the same. So if we look, for example, what was the most published content on our platform, it's about becoming climate aware. It was actually a web post where we had a campaign around it, and sustainable investing is a topic which resonates in the financial industry and is like in high demand. And that was a post which was posted 9 times. When we look at which posts reached the highest engagement rate, then actually it was a post around an event. It was end of January this year, and they were saying that one of our equity analysts, they gave an outlook presentation about the equity market, and it was in Brussels. And actually event post had a really high engagement rate and performance in our program because it showed a personal touch. You could see people on the image which you know, and then of course you are rather giving a like, or you're rather interested in who was attending that event. Unfortunately, these kind of posts were not happening in the last couple of months. That's why the examples are a bit old and from the beginning of the year. But just the point which I want to make is you always have to differentiate between investment content on the one side and on the other side content which has more a personal touch. And you always need to have a good mix of it. It's the 4-1-1 rule, which I mentioned previously. And you will always have more success with personal posts than with anything else. And the real digital rock stars are actually the ones who are combining both. For example, we have a head of global sustainable investing, and he often combines his hobbies together with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And when he tries to combine them, he's actually showing that he's totally behind what he stands for, and he enjoys actually the job he's doing it to its total extent. And instead of having a lot of carbon emissions, he's always taking the bike because that's his biggest hobby, for example. And you see him at weekends how he's going up and down the Swiss mountains with his bike. And these kind of posts where he's highlighting actually this topic from a business perspective and combining it with a personal matter, they are really successful because it shows a bit the person behind the profile. And I want to show with you a couple of more posts which had a really high engagement rate. And I show you as well content which has a high engagement rate versus content which has a high click-through rate, so that you see a bit the difference. So when we look at the top content, what was impactful in regards of engagement, you see some have a social character, some are around investing in the ESG world. We realized for us that content around sustainable investing, but as well around sustainable real estate or sustainable ETFs, and is having a really high engagement in the investment phase. And we realized as well that topics around job changes, when you have interviews in the media, when you combine content with actual topics around COVID, about home office, around virtual team working, and about all of that, what actually interests the mass, then it has a really big impact. Also milestone communication, when you have awards or if you reach a benchmark, that is what people like to celebrate, because at the end, it's still a social channel, and people want to celebrate together and want to actually see what their peers are doing. And that was why actually also, like, you have always to do a good mix of own content and third-party content, and always try to use visual storytelling and try to fit it into your content strategy. When we look at content which has a really high click-through rate, we see a bit the other side of the medal, because this is content around existing research papers. So that is actually what resonates best for us, is our global real estate outlook. It always has a really high performance because people are interested how the real estate market is performing and where are the bubbles. Then, of course, we have a well-known portfolio manager. His name is Hayden Briscoe. And of course, the Briscoe Bulletin is also well known in our industry. He's our head of Asia Pacific fixed income, and everyone is interested what he has to say, because especially now when he publishes content around how coronavirus was impacting emerging markets, everyone was interested to understand from an insider how he sees the development in the markets. And of course, any content around COVID-19 updates, and as I mentioned, ESG, if it's ESG real estate, ESG ETFs, everything around these research and insights topics had a really high impact. And then I come to my last points, and this is around what we can learn from others. And this was actually a presentation I gave to my digital rockstars so that they can grow on what I find where we can have still improvement points. And if you have a similar program, definitely share that with your digital rockstars or social ambassadors so that they can learn as well from others. So one important insight was always post around relevant topics. And nowadays, everyone is still talking about COVID, even if you can't hear it anymore. Everyone has the same challenges with home office, with staying committed and motivated, how to celebrate Christmas in a virtual setup, how do you do your team Christmas party, and all of these things. And what is really interesting is that LinkedIn does an analysis on trending hashtags. And this is actually something which I can really recommend to have a look into that, because these hashtags really have an impact. And when you use them for your posts, then they get a higher reach and more awareness. And at the end, if the content is interesting and relevant, then you can, over the long run, find new followers or new connections because they think you have something really important to say. And of course, we are quite visual persons. And you can see, when you see something, make the visual as stand out as possible, because at the end you can think about the social media channel to be like an event, and there are a lot of people chatting with each other, and how do you make sure that everyone wants to hear what you are saying? And this is only possible if you stand out somehow. And one important way to do that is the image, because that's the first thing when people scroll through their timeline. They only stop if the image is attracting them before they start actually looking at the call to action below the image, and then only they start to actually read the text and look at the call to action button or the click-through button. Relevant third-party mentionings. So I'm also trying to teach them to have a good content mix, and also to tell them you don't have to create content always from scratch. You are not a content writer, and there's so much good content outside. You only have to find the relevant one for your target audience, repackage it, and add a personal flavor which shows your target audience why they should read that interesting insight. And here are two examples. One is from Standard Life Aberdeen, from my previous employer. Martin Gilbert, the vice chairman, he actually highlighted a really interesting article in Forbes. And I think that was a really good practice, and you could see got over 125 likes, 10 comments, which is a good metric. And on the other side, you can see one of our digital rock stars who was actually posting like something about PVC. And I told them, as a to-do, follow all relevant company pages in your industry, or from consultancy where you think you find some surplus, and follow all relevant publications, for example, Financial Times, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, or any relevant local newspaper or publication which might be relevant for your target audience.
Hi, Sarah. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but we're running very short on time now.
Okay, I have 2 more slides, I think.
Right.
So another one would be, I'm really quick now. It's from a colleague of mine. He's also running a similar program for Allianz Global Advisors, and he was using a really nice personal story. So if you get the slides, read that post. It's really heartbreaking what he is talking about, but this is actually what matters. It's these little stories who make the difference. And another thing where you can really make a difference is with collecting empathic points and show who you are. And one way also to do that is via kudos. It's a really old thing, actually. It exists already on LinkedIn since June 2018, but not many people are using it, actually. And you can actually give kudos to actually people who did something really well, finished a project, who won an award, or you welcome a new teammate. Definitely something which should get considered. Another thing would be to think digital. We all had to face the fact that we had to transfer live events and webinars, and we should talk about it and try to connect the offline with the online experience to actually stand out. Last but not least, we also have to plan content around special days or celebrations. And there are a lot of important days. Some people might not know, but they are really interesting storyteller. For example, we realized there's a World Ocean Day, and the World Ocean Day fits really well in our climate aware strategy. So we highlighted the World Ocean Day and combined it with our climate aware strategy, and that was a really good thing how we could cross connect, and people thought it was really a great way to highlight something. And there are much more days around that which you can actually think about and add suitable content. And this is actually a checklist I gave my digital rockstars where they can see what they should do day by day, that they research some competitors to see what they post, what worked, what didn't work for them, look at the engagement metrics, modify at least 1 to 2 posts per month to actually add the personal brand message, that they create an own editorial calendar for the next month or quarter, and also think about post series so that they tell a story over several posts, that they follow the top voices on LinkedIn so that they see who are the inspiring leaders like Bill Gates or others who are really active on LinkedIn, and engage more with the posts of others and optimize your social listening strategy. Last but not least, that is actually my summary. It's a learning curve for all of us. No one is really mastering social selling, social sharing, social selling total. For me, these points were actually the main things. You have to get senior management commitment, convince them about the trust and power of social sharing, social selling, to get buy-in and define common goals. Have a good project team together who works on that together. You need to decide for the right partners, which platform, which tool. Do you need agency support? You have to set up measurement frameworks and benchmarks and do regular reporting on different levels. And last but not least, regular check-ins. People appreciate if you do quarterly knowledge sharing exchange sessions, that you do one-by-one training, that you do workshops. And with that, you can't go wrong. So best of luck. And if you haven't started with such a program, I can only recommend it because that will be the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And you're getting a lot of applause. Well, ridiculous amount of applause, actually. And you had a lot of comments and questions.
Yeah, a lot obvious, of them. I didn't want to interrupt because you were on a roll. And
you got stuck in there though, Robert. But I mean, the obvious attention you've put into the measurement, and that you stay with the people throughout the process. You can see that in how they're talking about their experience too. I mean, fantastic. Well done. We are over time, so I tell you what. I'd invite you to get into the questions if you can in the chat afterwards. But if anybody wants to go live right now, if you don't mind me, Robert, to ask your question, you're going to get the only chance to ask a question if you raise your hand. Going to wait a couple of moments. If not, we're probably going to end it there just so we can get back on time. Nobody's taking that opportunity. So sorry.
Do it. Just do it. Raise your hand. Come on stage.
Raise your hand. Come on, someone. You can ask a question. Otherwise, I'm not going to. There we go. Someone's there, Robert. Bring him in. This is good. Dynamic.
Wonderful.
It's always me, isn't it? The trouble. So first of all, Tatjana, it's absolutely fantastic to see what you've done and the discipline and the rigor. Charlie, who was also at this conference, I was actually expecting him to ask the question, but I will ask it instead. He and I implemented social selling at a startup about a year and a half ago, and obviously did bump into some challenges. And I think particularly the one around having to gather social selling indices from each of the teams manually. And so we were really wondering, is it hearsay, the tech stack that allows you to actually look at people's individual performance on these stats, or do you actually go through a process of collecting the stats manually and asking them?
So it's half, I would say. So most of the KPIs which I presented are actually aggregated automatically by Hearsay Social. Only the LinkedIn Social Selling Index, that is something which you need to collect manually. Only if you have the LinkedIn Sales Navigator team license, then you can also get that data point aggregated. But what we do actually, and that helps, is we have a LinkedIn group for all the digital rock stars, and we post there once a week with some updates. And if we need, for example, the social selling index from them, we also do a post there, and most of them respond. And it's a private group, and it works really well for team building, so that we have that group together. And I think you have to have a good mix to stay in contact with them over different channels. So we have a distribution list, you have the LinkedIn group, we have a Skype chat group, and then you have to vary and just talk and connect with them.
Yeah, actually, we realized that trying to send them an email with here's a link to the post that we're posting, etc., wasn't working as well as actually posting it on LinkedIn and saying go find it there.
Yeah, exactly.
Tremendous amount of best practices. I expect lots of follow-ups, I'm sure. Thank you.
Happy to.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Simonetta, for coming live. You beat everyone else to it, especially Charles, as you mentioned. So that's great. Thanks again. What a fantastic presentation. Really enjoyed it. Let's see. I think you're going to win again. Let's see what happens. But it's not a competition or anything. So everybody's doing a brilliant job. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Let's once again take this short break where we go into the backstage and we retrieve the next speaker and then come back. But we'll make it a little bit shorter this time, hopefully. Yeah. So see you all very soon.
Yeah, see you in a minute.